That's rough to watch. We're back with Captain Lee and Kate Chastain of Below Deck. Now Captain Lee ruled Below Deck for 10 seasons. Then one day he couldn't feel his left leg or his left arm. The cameras kept rolling while he held on to walls just to walk. Insurance companies started making phone calls. Producers had secret meetings. By season 10, the man who never missed a day at sea was using crutches on deck. But that wasn't why he left. The real reason came in a text message he never saw coming. After 74 years, the stud of the sea discovered even legends can be replaced overnight. Harold Lee Rosebach wasn't born on a beach or raised near a port. He came into the world on November 15th, 1949 in Saginaw, Michigan, a city surrounded by land, lakes, and long winters. He was the second oldest of 7 kids in a working-class family. His father had a steady job in the automotive industry. His mother ran the house. Life was simple, structured, and entirely disconnected from the sea. The closest thing to adventure was maybe a weekend fishing trip or skipping stones at the riverbank. No boats, no harbors, no sailors in the family. And yet, that boy from a landlocked town would one day become the most famous yacht captain on television. Looking back, it feels almost like a prank by fate. But somehow, it happened. He graduated from Arthur Hill High School in 1967 with nothing more than a diploma and small-town dreams. Back then, the biggest water he'd ever seen was probably Lake Michigan. He had never smelled salt water, never seen the tide roll in. The ocean wasn't just far away in miles. It didn't exist in his world. Decades went by. Life moved on. And it wasn't until he was nearly 40 years old that he finally stood in front of the sea for the first time. Imagine that. Most people by that age are already locked into a routine, married to their job. But Lee's life hadn't even started yet. Not the part that would define him. Before boats came burgers. In the early 70s, Lee found work as a Wendy's manager. He was 22 and running a crew of teenagers in a fast-paced kitchen where stress came hot and fast. It wasn't glamorous, but it taught him a lot. How to stay calm in chaos, how to lead under pressure, and how to solve problems on the fly. Skills like those don't go out of style. Years later, he'd be standing on the deck of a super yacht, navigating storms, managing demanding guests, and keeping a multi-million-dollar operation running smoothly. Different uniform, same pressure. The foundation was built over a deep fryer. His personal life followed a path just as unexpected. He met Marianne while still in high school, but she remembered their first meeting a lot better than he did because he didn't remember it at all. Luckily, they met again, and that second time, something just clicked. In her words, that was it. They got married and stayed married for over 45 years. Through career changes, relocations, and storms, both literal and emotional, Marianne stood by him. She was there when he was running restaurants. She was there when he first stepped onto a yacht, and she's still there today. Sometimes the real love story isn't fireworks. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and built to last. During his 20s and 30s, Lee was fully focused on the land. After his fast food stint, he poured his energy into the restaurant world. He built and managed multiple locations across Indiana, Georgia, and Florida. Payrolls, suppliers, menus. He knew the grind well. At one point, he was running a full-fledged restaurant empire. And still, the sea never crossed his mind, not once. He was a businessman with bills to pay, not a sailor chasing sunsets. But then in Florida, something changed. An opportunity came up on a boat. He took it. From 1982 to 1984, Lee Rosebach lived through 2 of the hardest years of his life. He wasn't a captain yet, just a mate working brutal shifts on whatever boat would take him. His days lasted 12 to 16 hours. Some days it was scorching Caribbean heat, over 95 degrees. Other days it was freezing, battling 30-foot waves in the North Atlantic. He cleaned out bess filled with diesel and human waste. He scraped barnacles off hulls while sharks circled in the water. He threw up constantly, from seasickness and lost more than 20 lbs in just 3 months. There were no shortcuts. He had to lift anchor chains that weighed hundreds of pounds. He climbed rigging in 40-knot winds. He crawled into engine rooms so hot they hit 120 degrees. But the physical side was just one part. He had to learn maritime law. He had to understand weather patterns, radio codes, safety drills. One mistake could cost lives. On one trip in 1983, a Category 2 hurricane slammed into their ship near the Bahamas. He didn't sleep. For 18 straight hours, he battled 8-foot waves and followed emergency protocols he had barely memorized. Those 2 years were hell, but they changed him. They built him. And in 1984, all of it led to one small moment that changed everything. At 35 years old, he paid just $35 for his captain's license. That was the fee, just $35. But behind it was nearly $15,000 spent on training, equipment, and exams. And behind that, 2 full years of suffering at sea. The same day he got the license, he walked away from his old life. He had been running a restaurant. It still owed more than $40,000. He just left it behind. No backup plan, no safety net, just one certificate and a belief that he could make a living on the water. Lee started small. He worked on 70 and 80-foot boats, learning the ropes, building his skills, and climbing the ladder step by step. Every time he moved to a bigger boat, he had to upgrade his license and prove himself all over again. This wasn't just about getting a better job. It was about completely reinventing himself. He left dry land behind and slowly became the man who would one day be trusted with ships worth tens of millions. Between 2010 and 2013, his career hit full throttle. He was now in charge of massive super yachts, real floating palaces. Each one came with a team of 10 to 15 crew members and price tags that would make most people blink. The Benetti Cor de Leon, a 50M masterpiece, was valued at $15 to $20 million. It cost another $1.5 million every year just to operate. The yacht would later become famous under the name Honor in the first season of Below Deck. Lee wasn't just steering ships.